Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Stephanie and Erika. Let's get to the show.
You're not really talking to me, and I don't know what to say anymore.
It's not that I'm like trying not to talk to you. It's like when things go the way that they have been going, I just kind of like go back into my little shell. I feel like I'm getting a lot of mixed signals. You got upset with me because I said that I couldn't move to New York straight away. You got upset with me about an app. You're not wanting any kind of intimacy.
So this is, I think, a good conversation, as good as one could expect. Erika is bringing up some of her thoughts that are going on. Stephanie's like, yeah, you seem really distant. And Erika's like, well, when things don't go well, I kind of go into my shell. It's great. She's taking responsibility. Then she lays out, you got upset at this, you got upset at that. She's not using the control word. She's just saying you got upset. And, this is good. Let's see. Stephanie has the capacity to apologize and kind of take responsibility. Let's see if she can do that. What I'm looking for is for Stephanie to recognize the position that she's put Erika in. Stephanie is free to say, and I didn't like it that you did the paper mache thing without asking me first or whatever. It's free to air one's grievances and apologize to each other. The next thing I would want to see is for the two of them to have a warm moment. It doesn't have to be intimate, physical, but just some kind of love exchange, if you will. Eye contact, holding hands, some kind of intimacy, some romantic intimacy. Because we haven't seen much of that yet. And that's a big important thing, at least to Erika. I don't know about to Stephanie, but that's an important thing to Erika, and it often is for most people. And when you have that romance and that bonding, it protects you from the moments of conflict later on. You're more likely to give the other person the benefit of the doubt. You're more likely to feel like it's worth it to go through those moments because you have something that the relationship is giving you. If the relationship is giving you nothing and you have conflict, it's hard to be motivated to work on that conflict.
I am feeling really upset and frustrated about Steph's jealousy problem. And her lack of intimacy with me in all ways is really messing with my head.
I'm sorry that I'm not like hand-holdy and, it's like just because I haven't given you more affection in like 3-4 days of knowing you, I feel like you've excommunicated me,
Okay, so she's airing her grievances as well. I don't know if that's exactly what Erika was saying. I think it's interesting. Does she have a labyrinth tattoo? It looks like a labyrinth tattoo. That looks like David Bowie. I don't know who that is. But I wish that there would have been like from Stephanie, it was like, oh, you want more intimacy? I want more intimacy too. Let's work on that. Instead, Stephanie goes to a defensive place, which is not encouraging.
You keep like referring back to the fact that we've only like been here for like a couple of days or whatever. What about those 4 months? We were like romantic then, and now I'm like, I want someone to be excited about. I want someone to be excited about like being around me. To like hold me and kiss me and like it just doesn't make a lot of sense, Steph. It hurts.
Yeesh. So even if you were a friend or, I don't know, an acquaintance, you would at least go up to Erika right now and put your hand on her shoulder or hug her or something. Like, he'd be like, oh, honey, you feel bad. Some kind of... But this is your romantic partner, and she's saying, I feel so neglected physically. I just want to feel like you like me. That's an invitation. And Erika isn't even being that mean. She's not being mean about it. She's not being like, you're such a B word. She's just expressing the real heart of the matter. And Stephanie's just sitting there. So why would that be? There's a million possibilities, but one speculation is that Stephanie doesn't have the sort of connection with her empathy with other people, or doesn't have either empathy or a connection with her physical warmth with other people. There are people who have been raised in a way that as adults it makes it really hard for them to be physically affectionate with other people. Maybe they were abused, physically neglected, who knows. But there are people who have just a very hard time noticing the moments in which physical affection will be a good thing for one or both people. So maybe Stephanie has some traumas around that. It's definitely possible. It would kind of fit in line with some of the other things I'm saying. Total speculation. Another possibility is that she doesn't actually really love Erika. She doesn't really like her in this moment because of the conflicts they've been through. I'm pretty sure another speculation on the internet is that Stephanie isn't actually bisexual and isn't actually attracted to Erika. So I'll add that to the list. That is a possibility. I would like to think that someone wouldn't do that, to go on a show and play with someone's mind like this and act like they were a different sexual orientation. I would like to think that someone wouldn't do that. So I'm really hoping that that's not the one. And there are other possibilities too. Maybe Stephanie feels hurt by what Erika is saying right now. Maybe for Stephanie, this feels like an attack to her, like, you're not a good person, Stephanie, for not being very affectionate with me. And then that causes Stephanie to shut down. So there's a lot of different reasons there. Maybe we'll get some data to figure out which one it is.
Erika starts telling me how I'm not being physical enough with her, and it's really upsetting to me. I don't want Erika to think that I'm not attracted to her, but I haven't been intimate with somebody in over a year.
Okay, so another possibility here is that Stephanie is equating what Erika is saying with full-on sexual activity. And that's not what Erika, I think, is saying. I think she's talking about full-on sexual activity, but I think she's also talking about holding hands and hugging. Like in that moment, she's just like, I just want someone to want to be with me. And, because that's what people do in relationships, particularly in the beginning. You want to look into each other's eyes. You want to touch each other. Most people, not everyone. The other possibility is that, I'll just throw this one out there as well, is that Stephanie is what we call asexual and or aromantic. And there's other terms as well, but I won't go into it. But essentially, it's known that some people just either have a very low sense or low need for romance or low need for sex, or no need for romance and no need for sex. There are some people like that. That doesn't have to do with trauma. It's just their orientation, if you will. And so I'll just throw that one out there too. Somehow I doubt that, given the fact that Stephanie has talked about previous relationships. The other possibility that I'll also throw out, which seems quite obvious as a possibility, is that Stephanie has had sexual trauma, or at least difficult past relationships regarding physical intimacy. And so she has that problem. The other thing that she's mentioning right now is it's been a couple of years since she's been intimate with anyone, and maybe there's certain parts of her physical being that is been turned off because she's effectively turned them off because she felt like she had to protect herself. So there's a lot of reasons. Having said that, when someone's crying and they're your girlfriend and they're saying they want to feel appreciated and loved, and they're just sort of falling into themselves, you want to reach out physically or at least verbally, like something to comfort the other person. I mean, why would you not? The only reason why you wouldn't would be because of some massive defense that's getting in the way, or you just don't care about the person, or I guess you're really triggered in the moment. But even if you're really triggered in the moment, it's like Erika was, I wanted to reach through the screen and, comfort her and say, yeah, I hear you, Erika. But, So why didn't Stephanie do that in the moment?
I feel like I really truly need to trust somebody before I let them in that way. There's a difference between talking about things online and then meeting and being thrust into a new situation. Like, I just met you, and on top of that, I'm meeting all these people, and I'm like,
You don't want to do anything. You don't want to. You're saying that like meeting new people is hard. You're saying that me planning dates is hard. Literally everything is too much. Like, why did you even come here? Why? Like, why bother, Steph?
It's a pretty good question. This wasn't a chore that was foisted on you. You came here to meet me and meet my friends. Like, that's what you wanted to do, right? So that's another speculation I'll throw out there is some people live in survival mode. It's possible, given Stephanie's history, that her and her mom had to go into survival mode for various different possible reasons, emigrating to the United States. Why did they do that? What was it like coming to the States and being in a foreign world? Is survival mode part of Stephanie's makeup? And when you're in survival mode, everything feels like a threat. And I know people like this clinically and professionally, where they might plan for a vacation, and it's a lot of actions. Okay, we got to check this off. We got to do this stuff. And they finally get to the destination, and they can't really have fun because they're in a constant state of worrying about, like, well, what about this threat? What about this threat? Instead of realizing, look, you chose to do this vacation. Or another thing would be one's career. It's the person will prepare for years to get into a particular career. But because of their survival mode mentality, they treat their job like it's an onslaught of things that are happening to them that they have to dodge and weave and avoid and protect themselves, and they're in a heightened state of hypervigilance when they chose that career. And that was the career they wanted. And they never now there's nothing wrong with putting out fires and being vigilant about threats, but there is something self-deprecating, self-denying to not realize, I chose this. I worked hard to get here. This is what I wanted. This is my life. This is my choice. This is what I got into. And maybe Stephanie has that as well, is that while she was preparing to find love and travel across the world, it was a lot of checking boxes. She gets there and she's in a defensive mode of trying to survive rather than realizing, hey, this is my moment to shine. This is what it's all about. Let's enjoy the moment. Let's stop and smell the roses rather than trying to protect myself from everything.
If you can't be affectionate, if you don't want to meet my friends,
I'm really sorry. Like, I feel like I up. So I'm really sorry. But I don't know what I could do right now.
So I hate to do this again, but that sounded a little drummed up from Stephanie with her crying. We've seen that before. I don't know if that's just me. Comment below. Let me know what you think, because I'm curious. That Erika seems to be crying genuinely. Now, I believe that Stephanie was crying genuinely in the cafe when they had the big blow up. I think that was genuine tears. But we've seen other moments where Stephanie, at least in my estimation, seems to be trying to exaggerate things. As I said in previous episodes, there's a lot of reasons why someone would want to do that. They're on a reality TV show and they realize that you can either be liked and loved by the world, hated by the world, or ignored by the world. That's your three options on these shows, I think, in my estimation. And you ignored, you don't want to be that, you don't want to be hated, you got to be liked. And one of the ways that maybe they figure they can be liked is to come across like they're the one being screwed over by the other person. That's usually what happens. Every couple, it's like there's the loved one and the hated one. You have the big Eds and the Roses. You have the, I don't know, the other couples off the top of my head. The Darcy and the Toms, right? So maybe that's why she's doing it. Maybe it was real crying, but let's watch that back. I'm not going to say she didn't have the feelings that was sadness and worry, but it just felt like she was trying to make it seem like it was a bigger cry than what was natural for her in the moment.
You don't want to, you're saying that like meeting new people is hard. You're saying that me planning dates is hard. Literally everything is too much. Like, why did you even come here? Why? Like, why bother, Steph? If you can't be affectionate, if you don't want to meet my friends.
I'm really sorry. Like, I feel like I up. So I'm really sorry. Like, but I don't know what I could do right now. This is not good for me to be feeling this way either, because health-wise, with my illness, I don't want to be feeling like so stressed out that like I get sick over it.
So it's valid. I don't know how well that's going to go over with Erika at this point, but yeah, okay.
It's only 4 days. So I kind of feel like, why are you making me feel like...
Because in this, the first day that you were here, Steph, you were asking me to move to New York. Like,
yeah, I know.
like,
I know.
Like, what do you expect? I'm trying to work with you, and you just keep...
No, you're not. You're not trying to work with me. You're making me feel bad about it. Like,
I'm just trying to talk to you about it, Steph, because it's a problem, and I'm asking for us to try and solve it in time.
How about just give me time?
Okay, I'll just sit here and try and figure out what I'm doing all by myself, like, while you figure it out on your own and not talk to me about anything ever.
So as I always say, there's that corner that couples will take in a conversation where they go from where there's a possibility of it being healthy to it being clearly unhealthy. And I think that they just turned that corner where now they're just doing tit for tat. And Stephanie's like, well, why don't you give me time? And she's like, okay, fine, I'll just do everything by myself. So there's not anything that's really happening that is constructive at this moment. I'm just so curious as to why Stephanie doesn't just say, Erika, I care about you. I'm sorry. Let's hug. Let's let's cuddle. Let me hug you. Let me kiss you. You know, that's what you do, right? You're like, I'm like, let's, you know, that's physical affection. It cures a lot of ills. And maybe it's, you know, her worry about her physical illnesses. I mean, she does have an autoimmune disorder. Maybe either consciously or subconsciously, she's worried about being infected by Erika or something. So I don't know what's going on there, but I'm just wondering why Erika just doesn't leap up and say, can I have a hug? I don't understand why that doesn't happen. It just seems like such an obvious solution to what's happening.
We're not seeing eye to eye, and I just feel like you don't understand me at all.
You're right, I don't.
You can't. There's no way you could. There's no way you could.
Yeah,
And there's no way I could understand you
because
either.
your struggles are harder than mine, Steph. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so now we've seen the pattern repeat itself, where Stephanie says, you don't understand me. She said that last night too in the cafe. You know, I feel like you just completely don't understand me. So there's that schema. When she feels very distressed and very hurt, that's the word she says. I'm curious what traumas are related to that statement for her. And then Erika gets fed up and walks off. This is the pattern that we're seeing. Yeah, this is troubling. It just seems so weird as to why Stephanie just doesn't say, you want affection? Let's hug. That would just solve like I said, there's a lot of reasons why there would be a barrier there. But it's so frustrating that barrier was there, whatever it was.
I feel really uncomfortable and I feel really alone because I'm just here by myself. I don't have anybody.
Is that more exaggerated? Let's just watch it again.
I feel really uncomfortable and I feel really alone because I'm just here by myself. I don't have anybody.
So I'm not saying she's not sad. Of course she's sad. Her girlfriend just walked out. There was a big fight and she's upset. But there's just something about there's sometimes when she cries where it seems like it's definitely just from the body, if you will. And other times where it seems like it's from the head, if you know what I'm saying.
I don't really understand what I've done wrong.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle, in which we follow Stephanie and Erika. Very difficult episode to watch. This doesn't bode well. Usually these things just get worse as the season goes on, so yikes. But tune in next time, and maybe things will get turned around. Maybe they will. Hopefully they will. And please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.